Now, welcome everybody. This is the IOTA Community Governance call on Tuesday, the 30th of August. Happy that you all are here. We are talking as every Tuesday and every Thursday about the upcoming ideas for the Shimmer Community Treasury. Happy that you all found your way here. If you come a little bit later, this is all recorded, going to be uploaded tomorrow to our YouTube channel. You will find, I can also drop the link to the channel. I also dropped the link to the recording in the governance announcement channel in our Discord server in a couple of hours when it's live. So you should be able to find it. We are happy that we have quite a nice representation from the IOTA Foundation here today. That's pretty cool. But also I see a lot of community members popping in a moment. So happy that you all join and that we can do some productive work in talking about our community governance. So, little agenda for today. We merely focus on the Shimmer Community Treasury. That's what we agreed on. That's our main task. Yeah. So the Shimmer Governance Framework is also still a topic, kind of, if somebody wants to talk about. But currently there are no new developments. The proposal is out there, all fine. You will find it in the governance forum. So we focus on really working and making progress towards a potential Shimmer Community Treasury. There was an initial proposal that I kind of stripped together, selecting what I think are really, really good ways of doing stuff that we find in other ecosystems, added some things. The link to the document you will find also in this agenda document. I've shared this in the Shimmer Treasury channel in the Discord here. And then we have an excellent document, basically a Notion page that was created by JD Sutton, Deep Sea, who can't be in this call today, with all kind of questions that arise from this initial proposal. And basically today we can start focusing on working through some of those questions, discuss topics here, and maybe come already to a little consensus in the group in either how we going to work further on them, or maybe we can even find some agreements and basic agreements on some things already, and we could then implement them into the proposal. Also something we can talk later on. Next Tuesday, we will have a nice little guest. We will have somebody who has applied for already over 10, he thinks 13 or 14 Web3 grant programs over the last 6 months with his team. And so he has gained a tremendous amount of experience how Web3 communities, DLT communities handle those grants and those grant applications. And he has also successfully received, as far as I know, minimum 2 grants of this already. Others are still in the processing. And so I talked already today with him, and he has a lot of cool knowledge and also a lot of good input from the perspective of a builder. What really a builder needs from such programs, what works not, what is kind of completely useless also. So next week he will be here in this Tuesday call, and I think I'll talk about that later. But we can basically would be cool if we can prepare some questions for him, and then we can talk about this next Tuesday. And as always, in the end of the call, we will be open for your questions and for your suggestions. But also feel free whenever during the call you want to say something, you want to mention something, you have a question, you have a suggestion, just speak up. Usually I have a habit of talking too much, so don't worry, just interrupt me if you want to say something. Let me see, do I have a slide? So yeah, these are the links to the proposal document and to the Notion page. Let me just shortly go to the document. Yeah, so that's basically the first proposal, like a draft, like an idea that I slipped together. And like I said, it's based, a lot of it is based on what other grants are doing. There are some ideas from Bankless, there are some ideas from Maker, there are some ideas from Uniswap grants, all things that basically work very well in Web3. I've kind of tumbled them together, did a little write-up about motivation and abstract and things like this, and gave some input here. So this document is open for comments. We got already some nice comments from JD, and so what he basically has done, let me share this here, is he created this Notion page for the Shimmer Community Treasury, and he collected all kind of his open questions, and we also got a lot of comments already there. And I think it would be pretty useful, like we done it with the governance framework document, if we just go through step by step through these questions and see if we have some suggestions, if we can do some agreements and things like this. And this is, like I said, it's based on this document that I constructed, and basically it's his input and the input from the group on that. Would this work for everybody? Any objections?
Sounds good. I haven't managed to prepare for every point yet, but
Yeah,
in general it looks good.
guys, I know you have a real life and a private life, so everybody
Yeah,
does as much as he can and wishes. Yeah, that's community stuff here. I try to do as much as possible administrative work around that things, and this is how we're going to move forward as best as we can. Asa is here taking notes, as far as I know. Yeah, Asa. And so we'll have some good notes on all that stuff. So first question is, of course, that came up from JD. What is the mission statement for the community treasury? Yeah, so basically, is there already a mission statement? What is it? I think I didn't put something in. I mean, you could say what I've been writing here in the beginning. You can keep this already as a mission statement to a community-based treasury management organization to boost the Shimmer network, its ecosystem, and its community. In my opinion, I put it also here. I think that would already work because keeping it simple here, yeah. Sometimes
yeah,
mission statement, if you put too much detailed things like, okay, we have to do that and we have to be like very inclusive and we
yeah.
have to
At most 2 or 3 sentences,
yeah,
but the shorter the better.
yeah, I think
And
also.
I must say, I really like your idea here.
Mm, yeah. One thing I was just wondering is if we should include IOTA specifically. Yeah? Otherwise, in the end, so we might say,
Yeah,
okay, this is of course a treasury for Shimmer, but we shouldn't exclude things that also profit IOTA, or but also if things are basically would only be for IOTA, then we of course need to think about if we really want to use Shimmer tokens for something that is not going to happen on the Shimmer network. Um, but I think we can add something that saying to support the Shimmer and the IOTA network, or and potentially the IOTA network, will maybe make sense. So we otherwise, if
yeah,
things it might be
Yeah, I
easier
think
to
that makes
argue.
sense because
Yeah.
they're all interdependent, right?
Mhm.
We don't. I just can't say when everybody got into all of this. I think it's just. I think everybody was assuming they were kind of interlocked and for us to just kind of like make it exclusive, it just handcuffs, right? It doesn't give you any flexibility; it just
Mhm.
rules it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll
I
just.
would say add. I
Yeah.
would say like to support the Shimmer and IOTA network.
Mhm. Okay, and if anybody has suggestions around this, use our channels in Discord. Yeah, if you think this should be a little bit bigger or a different wording and things like that. This is just like a first draft proposal. We should think about basically every word of this, because later on we will maybe have trouble if people start to argue why they haven't been funded or things like this. A very
Can
well
we
That's
remove the
important.
two words management and organization? Like, do we need that? A committee-based treasury to support the Shimmer network.
Yeah, that's already
Easier,
good,
less
because then
confusing.
it's easier already, and maybe helps to avoid confusion. Yeah, a community-based treasury to support the Shimmer network and to
The
empower.
Shimmer,
Yeah,
why don't just add IOTA here already? If
yeah,
you're
to
editing.
support Shimmer. The question is, do we say and IOTA?
Yeah, I think we should.
But then
Yeah.
somebody can say, if it's not supporting IOTA and any, but actually everything that happens on Shimmer is supporting IOTA. So you can't argue that it's not supporting IOTA. If it is a development that helps Shimmer, it automatically helps IOTA.
Yeah, I mean the networks are
Yeah,
interlocked, so I think there isn't something that does not help Shimmer,
yeah.
but it's not like this is only for Shimmer.
Mhm.
It's generally for
Yeah,
Shimmer and IOTA.
yeah.
And I
Can.
think maybe also with the IOTA main treasury there might be something that benefits Shimmer.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and then maybe we even
I mean
could
that's maybe something for some detailed
Yeah.
insights that you say, yeah, mainly of course Shimmer, but also IOTA, if it fits.
Mhm. Yes, of course. Support mainly. Oh, am I right? No, I'm wrong. Support mainly the Shimmer network.
I don't know if you need to add.
Yeah, I'm also unsure. I'll put it.
I don't think that that's
in.
required.
Yeah.
You know, you're just getting into descriptors. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary, right?
Skip it first.
You're handcuffing yourself again.
Yeah, let us think about this a little bit more in detail. If somebody has some input on that. This is also, of course, this document is open for comments. Yeah, so
Sure.
all of you can please add some comments there.
Where's the link for the Notion?
It's
Is
in
it like
the
chat?
yeah,
Governance.
it's in the Shimmer Treasury channel. Under governance,
yeah.
there's a Shimmer Treasury channel, and JD Sutton posted it. It's the last link before mine. But I don't know if it's. Yeah, you should definitely be always able to put a comment there, as far as I know. If not, JD
Okay.
can open it later.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will look at it.
Do I have to? Oh wait, there's edit, right?
Potentially. Yeah.
Okay, it sends me a sign up code to my mail.
Ah, yeah, good. Yeah, so you need a Notion. I think potentially you need.
Yeah, you have to have a
Notion
Notion
account.
ID, set up account. Yeah.
Okay, that's something I think we will work a bit on the wording. Again, this is not set in stone, but in my opinion, simple is good. This is also what we see in the others. I mean, Aave, Bankless, they basically have only one sentence that is basically the same sometimes as even. I mean, Bankless is onboarding 1 billion users to Web3, and this is what the Treasury is doing. This is what the DAO is doing. This is what they are all doing. They're all basically pulling on the same goal. I think that works very well. Next step that JD was putting up was define short and long-term goals of the Treasury. And that's an interesting topic. I think you can see it, of course, in different. It's a bit about how you really look onto this thing. I mean, what I have proposed is just a treasury that gets a budget. Yeah, so that's basically a group of committee members that will create a multi-sig wallet, and they get a budget allocated from the community for a specific cause, yeah, for basically handling out grants to teams, ecosystems, and stuff like this. And they also have, or in my idea, they would have a defined time frame of a year where they can operate. Of course, they will of course not get a big chunk like all the tokens, so there will still be kind of the huge community treasury behind it, which holds most of the tokens, and then the committee will have their 1 year operational outlook and their budget for this 1 year. Of course, it's always cool in making funding decisions to look on the long-term impact of such things. Yeah, so stuff that is only interesting, and if a project is just doing something that is not valuable after 2 months, it's very likely not something that that should be funded. I just thought about what he also proposed here, to have really a bit of a differentiation in short-term things and have a long-term value proposition of this thing, maybe not really clearly defined. Yeah, so it might hinder some things. Yeah. So as the committee basically should just focus on bringing the most value and the most effective growth to the ecosystem in this 12 months. Yeah. So if you fund something that will only kick in or be available in 2 years later, it's not something that might be interesting for this thing. But it's just like my opinion. I think JD lays it out here very well. So what are the opinions of people around that?
So essentially the idea here is that we, in order to drive impact sooner, quickly, we just focus on the 12-month going forward, and long-term projects, we right now just kind of multi-year projects, we de-emphasize those just because we need the quick hits now, right? And we need faster
a bit, yeah. So also, I think, I mean, if you think, and you know a bit of a budget, yeah. So if a team comes up with a proposal for a budget for a 2-year development of something, I think that first of all will be very likely out of scope budget-wise for this treasury, and we mainly think we will go for something like 15% of all the tokens available maximum for 1 year, including running costs. So that's not something that can. I mean, hopefully we will have whatever price, but we'll have to be realistic that we won't have dozens of millions dollars available here that could sustain such a big project over such a long time. Yeah, and then I think it's pretty important to give the ecosystem a very good kickstart in the first couple of months, instead of looking for things that are very, very focused on long-term effects on the thing. But that's just my opinion, and so really, yeah, this should be open to input and for opinions of everyone.
I think it makes sense to me, but I would love to hear the objections to that. I mean, there might be somebody I could be convinced otherwise, but right now that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think what JD wrote here is really nice. Yeah, I mean, he writes, I do think a long-term goal should be to support the mission of the treasury. Yeah, so if we have the mission defined, and then the long-term goal of the thing should, of course, be to supporting this. Yeah. And primarily a focus on creating self-sustaining, long-lasting treasury. Yeah, this is what he thinks. He talks about this long-term goal would basically be figure out a way that the treasury is not running dry after 2 3 years. So either then focus on creating possibilities that some capital and some tokens or whatever flows back into the treasury and to the so that the community basically can sustain this whole thing over a longer time, even potentially if there are some opportunities of earning rewards, earning yield, and things like this that all could then potentially go back into the treasury and keep this thing longer self-sustaining at as if we just would throw out 15% without getting anything back in the first year. Yeah, and so that's of course a really nice and very important long-term goal for this thing that we can and should look out for opportunities that bring a backflow towards the treasury from either the projects that are funded or from other opportunities that might come up in the ecosystem. With DeFi, you normally always have stuff that generates yield. You could potentially do some staking, stuff like this, and the community should potentially be clever a bit in looking out for some opportunities where they can safely generate some revenue flowing back into the treasury. And that's, of course, an interesting and important long-term goal to not drain this whole thing too quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been JD and I've always agreed on this to making an evergreen treasury if we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Can I,
Yeah.
can I can I ask something about this?
Mhm.
Like theoretically, it sounds really good. Like
Mm.
like I'm just curious when we talk about long term and short term in terms of the scope of the project and then in terms of the runway for the treasury. Because when I think about other ecosystems, it's like I'm always aware of like the bigger projects. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure what examples of smaller projects that are kind of like one-offs that would bring a lot of value to the ecosystem.
You mean like individual dApps or things like this? Um,
Yeah, so like when I think about Ethereum, I think about, those like the big game like DeFi projects. Like
yeah.
and I'm not really aware of like, what are the smaller like dApps or apps that actually bring value to the.
Let me show you something because
Okay.
I think there's something really, really interesting on the Aave grants page, because you would think, okay, I mean, Aave has a huge treasury. They have something about 300 million, or they had something about $300 million in their treasury, in their community treasury, and of course you think, yeah, they spend 20 million here and 50 million there, and they get huge things. But if you look in which projects they funded, of course you have a couple of wait, I go into a different world. They have a couple of really big ones because of course they had like 6 million in their treasury at the start. So you have things like this year 70,000, 100,000, 45,000. But if you look further, you see that they fund a lot of small stuff. Yeah, 5, 15, 12, 2, 3, 6, and all these are really
It's
important.
good to look at the definition of what they are,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
that tells right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here they 28 an Aave liquidation calculator. Yeah, community
So
analytics.
so Philo, when you look at that, how do you assess what value they brought to the ecosystem? Like how do you know? Like, I can see that
Yeah.
they gave out a lot of grants to like mid-size, like what we would consider mid-size, which is over
Mhm.
20,000, and then there's a lot that's under 20,000.
Yeah.
So like, what would be the criteria? Like if we give out a lot of grants for like 10,000, 5,000,
Mhm.
5,000. Like, how can we point to it and say, hey, that was good return for value for funds?
Yeah. in the end, you will have to see. Depends a bit what you do. If you really have some application, yeah, like a DeFi protocol that will launch on Shimmer, of course, then you have to look also a bit along with its competitors. How many users, daily active users, do they have? How many daily active addresses do they have? How many value is daily transferred or um, uh, done in this protocol? Yeah. How many value if they maybe launch a token? So how many added value did they bring with their token into the ecosystem? And there are a lot of metrics that you can look, and then basically you have to see, okay, compare this to other projects that maybe have not been funded, compare it to what happened on other chains, on other projects with similar products. Um, in the end, you never know if all those things have been super successful. I mean, what we have here heard from Aave is that they are extremely happy with what they have done with the grant program. Yeah, they every year they extended it, and they always did put more tokens into the hands of the committee because the whole community seems to be extremely happy with the outcome of all those projects. Yeah, and
Do,
yeah.
do you guys see a branch of the Treasury Committee drilling into these metrics after the grants are given out?
They have to. They definitely have to.
So there's going to
Yeah,
be a group of people who's going to be doing like postmortems on all
yeah,
these grants.
and also
Different.
report. I mean, I think I proposed to have quarterly reports on basically, of course, on all the financial situation, what has been spent, for what has it been spent, what costs have been there, and then also really do a report on. Like a feedback report on the projects that have been funded. How are they standing today? Even if it's something that only just lasted maybe a month, yeah, this was a small thing. We should always keep track on how they behave and how they develop in the ecosystem. I mean, not everything
Right.
will always. There's always things that can happen. Yeah, 6 months after a team received a grant, they have internal issues. They all come into a big fight and they just disappear because this things happen. But this would happen with or without a grant. Yeah, but if they have created a good value for the ecosystem and for the project before they got into a fight, then still the net outcome of this whole thing is very likely very positive. Yeah? But the treasury, very likely, if there is like a lead or something, this should be the task of the treasury committee to keep track on these things, to record these metrics, and to create regular reports to the community, and also kind of really be responsible for reporting this and giving this feedback back into the community because it's the money of the community that will be spent, and you need these feedback loops to keep like checks and balances in place. That's something that definitely need to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably important, right? I'm not sure if it was Ave, but I remember like a month and a half ago we had somebody present I'm not sure if it was this meeting, but they were talking about how they had fast turnaround grants that were like under 10,000,
Yeah.
like, and they would give those grants out like in 24 hours,
Yeah.
right? And then they had like the larger grants that was like 20 to 50,000, and that would go under a more rigorous process that would take
Mhm.
about a week.
Yeah. This is.
And then
You see what I
was
share here? Yeah. That was Ava. Yeah. I mean, basically, most of them do it very similar,
right.
but they have this fast approval up to 20K in 48 hours. Yeah. Where.
Do
Mhm.
you and JD, you guys want to mainly focus on the under 20K for like the first year or two? Is that what the point of the
Um,
uh beginning
we,
of this, I mean, when you were talking about the
yeah.
short term, long term?
We have to think about. I don't think we should do. I mean, we will not have this. We will not have 6 million in the treasury. Yeah, be realistic. This would be amazing, but we can't assume this. So we have
Where is
to.
this six? Where is this 6 million coming from?
This is what
That number.
This is what Aave is have. Yeah, Aave had
Oh, okay.
this. Aave had this 6 million from their 300 million treasury allocation. So basically, they had like, so it's like not extremely a lot what they spent from the funds that they have. I think we are aiming for a little bit lower tiers of something like up to $5,000. This would be similar to the one that Aave is doing up to 20. Yeah, so up to $5,000, you should really give out fast. Yeah, you don't. You sometimes really have to trust if somebody is applying for something that is a known community member, has no bad track record on anything and has been part of the ecosystem, or can show and can prove that that the team has been successfully worked in other ecosystems already with their idea, and they just need $4,000-5,000 to kickstart their development and port the application over to Shimmer. This shouldn't be a long discussion and a long talk and a community vote and stuff like this. This basically needs to be checked quickly because same what I had this talk today with DeFi from the one that is coming next Tuesday. He says the same. Yeah, the amount of money that you get has to have a relation with the time and the things that you have to do. Yeah, if you need to spend 2 weeks in putting together an application and a proposal and whatever documents to get just $5,000 grant, absolutely not interesting for any team. Yeah, this better you spend this time in development of your protocol. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the amount of work and effort is commensurate with the amount you're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you have these tiers, and of course, the more money projects ask from the community, the things need to get more complicated. Yeah, so you then need KYC, you need milestones defined, you need very closer due diligence and interview processes. But small grants that help the ecosystem, that help the community, shouldn't be a complicated thing to get, because then those teams, they will just go to one of the 250 other projects out there that give out grants much easier than the IOTA community, and then they will apply and then they will build the application somewhere else. Yeah, and this is not going to help us.
I mean, I'm not gonna hold you to it, but like there was that informal poll survey on our channel on the server,
Yeah.
and it said that people were thinking. If I look at it right now, people were thinking maybe use 15% of the treasury.
Yeah.
The first year, right?
Yeah.
So roughly, like I'm not gonna hold you to it. Like what is IF thinking that would be around in dollars?
We have absolutely no idea, but I can show you what JD did put together some really good calculations here, because this is basically his next question is this: what percentage of the Shimmer Treasury should be spent in year one, and what value in US dollar should be used for? And he made some calculations. Yeah, so considering 835 million US dollar IOTA market cap, if we assume Shimmer would be 4%, or potentially up to 10% of IOTA's market cap, then we would be in this range, yeah, 33 to 80, maybe $90 million. And then basically 15% of that would be between 3.4 and 8. No, wait. No, this is the 10% that the community owns. And then from this, you have around 15%. So you would be somewhere in between 340 to $1.6 million that would be potentially available for the treasury, but really depending on the market cap and how much this. I think this is for 20%. So if we would take 20% of the entire treasury in year one, and you will be between 600 and 1.6 million that would be available. Yeah, so of course, these are not numbers like other projects can throw around, but yeah, on the lowest with 300-400K, you can do a bit, but not much, yeah, because you will also have costs involved in this whole thing. Because
And I asked a little question
yeah,
between. Hi guys, I'm in Bay and we working on some proposal for the Shimmer Treasury as well. And we have a slightly another approach on this whole thing. Philo is on that Aave project and the Treasury. Is there any kickback payment to the DAO plans, or is out there such a model that there are opportunities that the DAO can get the kickback payments from the project that was granted to, like project token itself, or other models to keep the DAO running with fresh funds?
yes, yes, this is something that we are definitely thinking about. Um, we, I think we will not. I don't think you can force projects to give tokens. This will be something. I mean, if they have a token, they should. You can kind of require it or request it. The problem is if they haven't launched a token yet and they use the grants and the funds, you can't. It will be difficult to go into legal agreements that they must give back tokens. I'm sure they should, but it's maybe something that doesn't need to be a hard requirement, especially on if the community. I mean, if we will probably fund a lot of things like events and stuff like this that not involve a token. What also will be really interesting is creating liquidity incentives for teams, because this is what we hear from a lot of teams. Some of them basically ask for, they don't ask for really free money. A lot of them want and need liquidity and a stable liquid market for their product. And so if there would be liquidity pools available in the later DeFi ecosystem, it would of course be very clever, I think, and I mentioned it also in the other paper, that the treasury and the community allocates um, an amount of tokens, especially also stuff that is not yet used. You can either have it lying around in your wallet and do nothing, or you can put this into a liquidity pool and potentially earn some yield on that. Yeah. Um, and if or you can really also get into agreements with teams that they after they have shown a bit like Optimism is doing it, after they have shown that they reach certain amount of metrics, then they get their grants, but also they maybe do some airdrops and stuff like this to the community or to the treasury, so that there is some reflow. Yeah, and this is then something that is important for the long-term goals of this whole thing. That it's just not only taking tokens out of the treasury, but it finds a way of getting a fund flowing back into the system. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah. So overclock. That's there. It's a bit, of course. If you then see that there might be people that work as grant reviewers there might of course be running costs. And so basically, if we would just have like $300,000 or $400,000 on the lowest, then this whole thing doesn't make a sense, because then you will have quite a large amount of running costs for salaries and things like this. Then you need to pay, because you need to pay competitive salaries to people that spend time in doing this. Otherwise, for free, nobody will work in the desired quality for that. But if we see that we come into a range of this $1 million, $1.5 million, then of course it's nice, because you will have a nice large chunk of tokens available that you can give out. Yeah.
So, Philo, would you recommend that the Treasury delay giving out grants until it hits a certain budget?
I mean, of course, if we will really have to see. I think these are things that we only can talk about after Shimmer has launched and we see basically where we start off. Yeah, if Shimmer starts really low and we see we would need to use 20, 30, 40% of the tokens to make any sustainable impact, we don't need to do anything. Yeah. In the other hand, to get value into an ecosystem, um, something has to happen. Yeah, so funds need to come from somewhere um, to incentivize teams to come, and not really to throw money onto them, but just really teams. They have so many options. They can all the time. There are new level one chains launching. They are often funded by VCs. They provide easy intros into the ecosystem, and they provide a nice little chunk of money for teams that are valuable. Either we can convince teams with great tech, great community, and a little bit help to pay them off for their time to come into our ecosystem, or we will struggle to find those teams. Yeah. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
Community has to decide this and has to see in the end what they are willing to put in such a thing. Um, I don't think we need to fund anything in the first couple of weeks. Yeah, that's but once
Yeah.
there is a sustainable market cap and a kind of there's a price finding phase always when a new token launches. Yeah, so the first couple of weeks there will be high volatility. It goes up and down, and if you fund a project
Yeah.
there and they ask for an amount, they ask today and tomorrow it will be kind of the double amount of tokens or only half of it. It's super difficult to make proper
Yeah,
decisions there.
I think it's going to be a while until we set up the treasury. Because personally, regarding the upcoming vote on the Shimmer mainnet, as soon as it launches, I would say that the vote that must not end within the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Anyway, we need
at the
working
beginning,
smart
there is
contracts.
like
Yeah.
a really high. I would expect as soon as Shimmer goes live, there will be a massive dump because people are going, oh, hey, I have free tokens. I'm gonna get some dollars and whatever I want. On the other hand, there will be people buying. So
Yeah.
the first weeks,
Yeah.
I would personally expect the token to be valuated lower during the first weeks than later. So I think I would agree that we should not spend
Yep.
too early, but I think by the time we have set up the treasury and established it with our research, with reviewers and all the team, I think at this point we are already past that period and
Yeah.
can start funding.
Yeah. You need multi-sig and things. Yeah.
Mm.
You know, when I look at a lot of this stuff and I talk to people in the crypto space, like investors and stuff, the sense that I get is that when you talk about these smaller dApps and stuff, it makes me question how much value they'll bring to the ecosystem, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if you get like a couple of big projects or some
Mm.
some like prominent teams
Yeah.
to start projects in the ecosystem, it would bring immediate like market value
Yes.
to the network, right?
Yeah.
And so when I think about that and I talk to people, I think that again the real stumbling block is coordicide, right?
Yeah,
So like the prominent teams and the bigger projects, I think for them to consider Shimmer, they would have to at least have some risk management, you
Mhm.
know, and
Mhm.
and having
Yeah,
faith
I
in the
don't
network.
know if maybe there's like going to be some sort of hybrid phase where the code is still there to secure, but not entirely responsible for validation also.
Yeah. And
I
I can't I
like.
can't I can't
Yeah.
see I can't see. I mean, like you would know better, Philo. Like
Mhm.
when I have talks to some of these projects coming over, what is their perspective on the network with the coordinator being centralized?
I think it really depends. Of course, the like big ones. I mean, we will not have MakerDAO or Aave deploying in the first couple of weeks or months on Shimmer. That's unrealistic to think about. They have other chains that are lining up for implementations there, where they especially also they have large funding from VCs available and things like this. This is not something that we can expect to happen immediately, and also this is not something that is usually funded by community grant things. Yeah, so those really large players, they go to a foundation, yeah, like Avalanche Foundation,
No,
Harmony, Near,
My,
yeah.
my point was that
Mhm.
if we're concerned about the the budgetary thresholds reaching a certain amount, so we can
Mhm.
actually start giving out these grants, it's almost like we need to have courteside happen, and then possibly get some of these bigger or more prominent teams to commit to the network. Then I could
This,
see the value of Shimmer going up a lot,
yeah, but
and then we can spend that money on these dApps and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, but I don't. You look at other chains. Look at Solana. Look at Binance chain. All of them are super centralized, yeah, and they have masses of teams. They have masses of applications working there. So in a certain range of DeFi applications, NFTs and stuff, people they will not really care if we run on a code. They will just care, are there users? Is there a community? Is there a working tech that I can deploy my application,
Okay,
extend my user base, and basically
but
make money with it? Yeah.
when you think about projects like Solana
Mhm.
and like Avalanche, don't they have a lot of didn't they start with a lot of funds to
Yeah,
to
of course.
get
They
that's it's
yeah,
kind of like we're like in the what comes first, the chicken or the egg right now.
that's
Do you
the
know what I
thing.
mean?
That's the thing. Yeah. Um, this is also why I think in the absolute beginning, this whole thing should focus much more on marketing and outreach instead of instead of funding every little thing single application. Yeah. Um, Also we have the the EDF thing that is going to be a little bit on a different focus. Um, I think the community
Mm.
anyway can focus on things that the community knows and does best, yeah, and really making Shimmer known in the Web3 world will be very likely much more important in the first couple of weeks and months than funding projects that build directly there. This is also important, but I think outreach, marketing, events, going to hackathons, going to whatever, sending teams here and there, and creating this awareness that there is something cool. It's something much more important in the beginning to kickstart. This will create more value than a team that will start building and then will be deploying their application 3 4 months later. Yeah, you will have a much easier and immediate effect if you use funds at the beginning to spread the word and to create education and to create stuff like this. And I think the community treasury can focus on such things much more, especially in the first phase of this whole thing. Um, then funds will very likely be spent more effective on things like this.
Mm.
Yeah, but we don't exactly know. Yeah, so we just have to really see and try it out. Yeah.
I think there is a difference between us giving out like $5,000, $10,000 to these smaller dApps to come and
Mhm.
build, because they're basically just following the money, right? As opposed to some projects that are looking for a future or a home for their team and their work.
Yeah.
So they would need to trust the network that it has a future, and that they're mitigating a lot of risk. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it comes down to the point where, like, if you had Courtiside on Shimmer, it would still need to be decentralized for a while for these quality projects to commit to it. No? What do you think about that?
Um, like I said, I think decentralization um, it comes in phases and it comes granular, yeah. And I think also our core decide, it's not a single event. Yeah, core decide will happen in phases, and parts of core decide will happen quite early on Shimmer. That will then basically put us away from this. Yeah, so it's not something that we have to say, okay, we are completely centralized until there is one point in time where the core is going to be switched off, and after that everybody will think, okay, now it's time to build. I don't think it's going to happen like this. Yeah, it's going to happen in phases, and we will progressively decentralize the thing, and it will make it more and more interesting for applications to come in. Yeah, and for them it's always the question then, okay, when do they start to look into it, and when do they start to think about moving into it? If they wait too long, maybe they miss the chance against the competitor and stuff like that. So it's a very, very difficult to think about that, but definitely core decide will happen in phases, and it will start on Shimmer, and we will not have to wait extremely long until the first decentralized things happen on Shimmer. Yeah? And so then this will be the point that we are in the same range of decentralization as Binance chain stuff, and Binance is full of applications and full of stuff that's building there, and so I don't see this as a big issue, especially for teams that already built on other pseudo centralized or decentralized apps networks like Binance on Solana. Yeah.
So do you think that the Shimmer Treasury it could go up enough with the market for us to start giving out these funds and stuff?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
the market movement will be enough.
It has to, has to. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, we have to get into this point. Yeah, and even like if we can support 100 projects with $5,000, it's going to make a difference. Yeah, it's going to be a big difference compared to having nothing available for nobody. Yeah, that's definitely the
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it as especially at the beginning, we really have to make sure we get the most out of our funds as possible.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
if essentially if we are not getting value out of the funds, then we will have a lot less budget in the end because the Shimmer network won't rise.
Yeah. I mean, this is if
Especially
we don't get
like now in the
users.
first week, once we are in the first year, we are really hard dependent on where the token price is going.
Yeah.
So I have already wondered if too much outreach is even good, because this case, I mean, IOTA is kinda known in the space as hasn't delivered and shitcoin and all that stuff. People that have been here for a while, I mean, we haven't the brightest history here, so
Yeah. Sometimes also
we'll have to see that
Yeah.
it's. I wonder if maybe we should first get something on Shimmer to say, so we have something to say here. Our network works. Maybe do you want to come and build on it?
Yeah, of course. This is the before this isn't clear, you can't do anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's let's assume that we will not have big bugs and stuff like this. So that basically we roll out, it works. We roll out the EVM chain, and the EVM chain works. You have smart contracts. You can deploy everything that you want on Shimmer as in same as in Ethereum and stuff like that. Bang. So that's basically for builders everything they need. Then they have a community, then they get some incentives. Yeah, so it's kind of all prepared. Yeah, maybe we can create then some outreach, create some noise in the space that we are back on track and we have delivered something. And then, yeah, we'll see. But I agree with Overclock. We need to have this regular checks and balances. Is basically the things that we are doing or that the treasury is doing, are they having an effect? Yeah, if you create a lot of outreach and there is no users coming in, you're doing something wrong. You have to stop it. You have to rethink and reevaluate where you spend any money in, and just not continue doing and just waiting for everything. Yeah, if after you fund an outreach campaign and they do and you see on the metrics that they haven't any positive effect, then you shouldn't continue doing this until something has changed. Yeah.
Yeah, also you have to see which kind of users you are attracting, because at this stage we would really need some developers that build stuff and not just people that hyped IOTA for 1 month and then they are gone, never to be seen again.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, users are not developers. Users are people that basically use the stuff that has been developed on the network. So, of course, we have a great alignment of projects that are basically ready. They're waiting, they're building, they are, of course, hidden for part of the community because they are not public yet. But of course, there will be a lot of projects launching on Shimmer. So that's all there. You can do everything that you do on all the other chains on Shimmer also, once the EVM is live. What we need is then people that use those applications, that use their Shimmer tokens, and basically do all the stuff that is done in a proper network, DeFi, stuff like that. And then you see, and if we see we don't have a lot of users, we have to care and try to get more users into using these applications, because this will be good for builders. They will earn some incomes on fees and stuff like that. They can continue building better products. It will help us making core decide happen because we have a network in use that is potentially under heavy load and stuff like this. So it all kind of depends on this, getting people using Shimmer and getting people from outside our bubble into doing things on Shimmer. I think that's a very important part of this whole thing, what the community can achieve with this whole thing.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So basically coming back to the thing, I think that's something we should define this. Like JD said, we should define short-term and long-term goals. Maybe we should have, if you say you see the year, we can maybe divide it in 3 quarters, in 4 quarters. Yeah. Say, okay, we have maybe quarter 1 with short-term goals mainly on getting people moving in, creating outreach, creating information, education, and supporting the builders that already are there. This is also something that I think is important. People that are committed to build on Shimmer, that they get the first wave of support. And then maybe for the second year of the HAL, for the quarter 3 and 4, we can define some different goals that focus more on other stuff, on getting really some teams from other chains moving in and stuff like that. Because then we have also some success stories to tell. Our builders will tell how great it is, how nice the experience is. We can use this again as outreach leverage to convince other builders to come in. So somebody
Ninja,
please
could you please
mute yourself?
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing is, of course, also the question is the committee itself will not really actively do anything. What we are talking about here would basically all be proposals to the committee. So the community is.
The community, the committee could do. We could still say, hey, we are going to put a bounty.
Yeah. You can make.
That's the inverse variant. You say you make funding for, let's say, make a certain DeFi app. We want that on Shimmer. Then people can pitch for that. Say, hey, I'm going to build that for 5K or so, and then we can essentially carry on as with a normal grant and say that maybe like Aave half before, half afterwards.
Yes. Or you have things like, there will be always big Web3 conferences. You have Ethereum conferences and stuff like this. If we know that in 3 months there is going to be the Web3 Builders Conference in Barcelona, you can say, okay, we want a couple of people, our teams, our ecosystem teams, to be present there. It doesn't need to be the IOTA Foundation or something like this that does this outreach. It even is normally better if the teams go out there and form a strong presence on such events to say, hey, we are here, we are building, we have users, everything works, and then you can really like I said, you can put out these bounties, you can put up a budget, okay, we will support 5 ecosystem teams to go there with 20 people, have a booth, have this and that, giveaways, t-shirts, blah, 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 bang, and can plan such activities. That will be actually a great thing. And I think that's really something that the community can do really good, because you also don't need technical knowledge. You don't need code reviewers for stuff like this. It's just something that we know it will work. We just need people want to do that and people that are committed to doing that, and then they just need the funding to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think maybe, especially for the first quarter, it's really good to say we are only going to fund people that are also already known in the IOTA ecosystem, that maybe have projects already there, because for this we know that this is probably going to give us a lot of value to have some of the initial applications ready. And once this is really ready and we have something for the users to use, I think then it's the time for the outreach campaigns.
Mhm.
Of course, we have the classic chicken and egg problem here with
Yeah.
users and developers. That's something we need to overcome, and ideally with spending at least money as possible on that, because as I said, if we are on a very strict budget for the first year until the Shimmer maybe gets a 3-digit million market cap, and we have maybe 1 million a year then.
And
Don't
I
know.
mean, like I said, the good
The 3
thing.
million,
Yeah.
Philo, over which period were these 3 million by Aave, the spendings?
They have 6 million for 1 year, but basically what they have currently spent is, so you see this, they have
Over which period are these 3.4 mil?
These are, I think, like now something like 14 or 15 months.
Okay.
They have launched, I think, in May 2021. So they have 3 millions here, and then they also have spent around 1 point. They have here for events and stuff like this. They have spent a lot of money. 1.8 million they have spent only in promotion, marketing, and events. Yeah. So
Wow.
they spent nearly, yeah. So 1/3 of their spendings went completely into community events and community initiatives, and not into builders and code related stuff. Yeah. And so this is
Yeah.
really also something super important, I think, that is often overlooked, because you always think, yeah, okay, you pay this developer and you pay that developer, but making a network and a product and an application known, I mean, everybody knows, everybody that's a little bit into Web3 knows Aave. Yeah? It's just huge. Everybody knows, okay, Aave is cool. It's like this boring landing product. Everybody knows this, and this is just because there has been this big outreach from the Aave community going to all these, yeah, you see, they go to all these hackathons, they sponsor bounties, they go to this event, they go to that event, they go to all the big things, and it's not really expensive. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you spend like 10, 15, yeah, 5,000 for a bounty in an Ethereum conference. Yeah, that's not something that is really expensive, but you are there and you are known, and the people recognize that you are there, and the people will start talking to you and ask questions, and they try out things. And this is how basically we should do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because these conferences probably have they're going to give a lot of value if you can
Absolutely. You have to
reach people.
Yeah, you have to get into, because also all the developers are there, yeah? And it's super important to get the really good developing teams looking into your thing. And basically the best thing is private contact. You talk to them, you show them some stuff, you get in a connection with them, and then you can convince them, hey, cool, have a look on it, try it out, get some tokens for free, and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so what do I still have on my notes? Regarding funding the treasury, there have been some discussions regarding using Shimmer inflation for that after 1 or 2 years. So essentially we would bootstrap with the 10%, And
current,
after that, we would say that we reduce the payout for staking by 1%. So instead of 5%, it's only 4, for example, and this 1% goes into the treasury.
I
Of course,
wouldn't.
arbitrary numbers.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Basically, there is not yet any plan and timeline and decision around inflation on Shimmer. So I wouldn't put any thoughts into this. Inflation on Shimmer, if it comes, will come somewhere later. Huh?
Okay.
So that's. I think that's
Yeah,
not
that
something that we
it
need
would,
to. Yeah.
yeah, it would also be something I'd do not in the first 2 years, definitely.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
mean, yeah.
Because
Let's.
we have the 10% and
Yeah.
really this must last for a while, because
Yeah.
if it does not, then we're going to get tokenomics problems because of sell pressure from the grants.
Yes. I mean, this is, like I said, these are things, what is happening in 2-3 years, it shouldn't, it doesn't need to be part of this proposal discussion. I mean, in the end, also, you can say there's like, this is now this one proposal for a treasury thing. There could also be, I mean, there's still then potentially 85% of the tokens there. If somebody else proposes a different idea of what to use tokens for, there's still, of course, the community can always set up a second or a different or another program or another ideas. That's not something that should be limited to this. It's just something that I think would be easy to set up, can start quite quick, and can have a huge effect on the ecosystem. But it must not be the only thing, and also not in the future. And after 1 year, if the community says, "Yeah, it was nice, but we want to do something different," hey, then just stop the committee, and somebody puts up a proposal for something different, and then the community can continue to do, or can do 2 or 3 different things at all. Yeah. Do we have more questions from the audience? Maybe that makes more sense than going through more of things. I think basically really good would be if people look into the Notion page that JD has created. Put your comments up there, put your ideas there, or use the Discord channels to talk about those things, or you can also comment in the Google document, because I think, as far as I know, JD has left also most of his comments here directly in the document, so you can just also comment in the Google Doc if you have issues with Notion.
Yeah, going to see how it works out. I've planned to read through it, some of the points further down the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the first few points here are really the most important, and also probably this thing we'll be stuck on for a while.
Yeah, that's like really important core decisions, core talks.
Yeah.
Everybody have to put a bit of a thoughts into this during the week, maybe during the weekend. I think it will be really, like I said, really useful maybe to come to the last point that I had on the agenda, to hear basically what his name is Firefly. I don't know his real name, but I think they was just like this week was the announcement from Touchpoint, the blog that they're joining the Touchpoint ecosystem. It's a really interesting project. They are currently also building or already active on 3 or 4 different chains. I think they're on Polygon, they're on Binance, whatever. I think Avalanche also. And like I said, they have applied for multiple grants in all kind of different ecosystems, and they have had a lot of different experiences with these different systems, and I think it would be very, very useful to get really some really real world info on, okay, what did happened here, how did it work, how did it feel for you as a builder to wait 4 weeks for an answer, or to just have somebody at hand after the first call and like 2 days later you have been approved and you could start building and you could start reaching out to customers. So that's, I think, really, really valuable. And he will be, I think he only will have a half an hour, so it would be cool if we can create some good questions. I will put up a thread in the Shimmer Treasury channel. I'll put the link in the channel, and then people can really, if we can figure out some nice questions, he could potentially answer them already in the thread and go through the most important things then in the next Tuesday in the call and give some real insights from a builder that has applied for grants and that has received grants from several other systems, and also especially that has built and is building on all kind of other chains, which is, I think, really important for us to understand how the rest of the crypto world works and how we need to potentially adopt our perceptions and our ideas how things work to have any kind of impact on in this space currently. Yeah.
I agree on the point that you should definitely be aware of how other chains work. I mean, I've like started on Ethereum and then Binance Smart Chain. They're like all little countries, with their different personalities. But I would say that the biggest advantage IOTA has is the fact that they should be aware, but they should not act like other chains. Because I'll be very honest, they all are pretty bad, and I don't like dealing with them. Like on a normal if you ask a normal person, if once they get there, it's like that was stressful and awful. Like
Yeah.
it just is. It's not. I would just be aware of how they act and use that to
Yeah.
adopt and deal with other chains. But stay IOTA is I guess
Yes,
what
of
I would
course.
say.
And that's a good thing to get this feedback. Yeah, like from you, from teams, like from Touchpoint, we are in talk with them, and we see and we hear basically their experience building and interacting on other chains, and to get that feedback
Yeah.
is important for our community to really understand basically where we are and what is good and
So
what is shit. Yeah.
yeah, it basically. Oh, you basically said it. Now I can you say curse words freely. This is great. No, no, but seriously, I mean, all when you talk to people like Ape Labs or any of the other projects that are who previously were on the Binance Smart Chain, or Avalanche to a certain extent, Polygon, back in a few months ago, and it's like, wow, it's not. There's not. These are normal people. These are people who really just want to, innovate, and they're not here to, rip out your tokens through your heart, And so it's good. It's just a breath of fresh air, as one person said. It's nice to see this kind of thing, and it's kind of almost, I wouldn't say poetic, but it's saying the Tangle can really literally connect to any of these chains.
Yeah.
With the proper, it can be serve as the layer 0, the base layer. Connect it, and use it as the anchor. It can, do a lot of good, and
Yeah.
reduce. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's a cool. And the good thing is that basically we also have our community knows this. We are an old project. Yeah, we're kind of grandfather project. Started same year as Ethereum, basically. Yeah, so and we have people that are in with us since this time and since the beginning, and of course they have a different perception um, than communities that have just formed in the last 8 months in a new hype project that has been pumped by some VCs and basically are just a bunch of college kids that are playing around with their NFTs. We are definitely different, and but that's basically also the high value and the important thing for teams that when you are accepted in our ecosystem and in our community, you are definitely in a long-term relationship with us, yeah, because
Yeah.
we know we will be here in 10 years and in 15 and 20 years with IOTA, and so that's an interesting point for builders, I think, after they have done their first hype project on one of these fancy new chains, they might consider to do something more reliable and resourceful and long lasting than they find it on other projects potentially.
So yeah, one of the things like when Shimmer launches, I see so it can either go two ways. Like I feel like it's a very black and white situation. Um, it will go extremely well if there's enough groundwork kind of laid out prior to through the education initiatives or whatever people are doing. People prepare the IOTA users for what's to come, because there's be a lot of there's just be a lot of degens that kind of invade. They'll see a new chain, like they don't even know what the IOTA tangle is. They'll just come. They'll
Yeah.
like hordes of zombies almost kind of trying to like, vamp and take away participate in the unhealthiest way as possible because they don't know any better. They're not investors. They're gamblers basically. So they'll come there, and it could be either if things are great and the groundwork is laid and the basic kind of core community knows what to do and it won't be a horrible experience, then yeah, I think IOTA and Shimmer will do great. Or on the very flip side, there's no one is prepared. They don't have an inkling of what's about to happen, and it'll be a glorious dumpster fire.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're working on the former of that, definitely. Yeah.
I hope
we are
so.
diverting a bit.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if there are some questions in the audience, bring them on. If not, I don't know if we wanna spin it up here and going to continue on Thursday.
It was a good talk for for a small time. I actually don't even remember how much time it is. It was still a good talk though, Philo.
Absolutely. I mean, we are in already 1.5 hours. So if nobody has any other questions or comments, I invite you really to look, like I said, into the two documents. Leave your comments there, either in the Google Doc or in the Notion page that is shared in the channel. Use the Discord channels to discuss topics. I think especially around the first couple of questions that JD has put together, would be great to get some opinions around that, some ideas of how we could do it, what we could do better, on these areas of where are we basically? Yeah, so especially short and long-term goals. How much percentage should be spent in 1 year? I think all the polls, everything we see is like up to 15% is definitely okay for the community. And how we see the budget allocation, potentially the costs for the team of grant reviewers that will be needed. Yeah, you need people that really do the groundwork and that are available to do this work, and they need to be paid. That's, I think, nothing we can wash away. And so yeah, put your ideas up there. JD, I think he has done an amazing groundwork laying this out all there, and really base your ideas around these comments and these questions from JD. And I think we will make nice progress. And yeah.
There's some other. Oh, before you get into, I was going to say some of the grant. Like there's a bunch of foundations that with interesting I would say grant like dashboards and proposals like Ocean Protocol. They're very very obscure and very tiny. They're not like Oasis or Emerald, but they're very tiny. They have a great dashboard, that allows you to just go through all the grants in a public way, and
Yep.
so one of those things would also be useful as I was kind of looking through the grant.
Absolutely. If any, I would hope this will be one of the first proposals from a team of builders to basically build an amazing governance dashboard. I think I really love what Maker is doing. The MakerDAO governance dashboard is amazing, and something like this. If a team wants to build this stuff, I'm sure we can find support in the community to have tokens available for teams to spend 1-2 months on building such a beautiful and great information dashboard where everything around governance, proposals, votes, and decisions is in one place. It's super needed. But again, stuff like this doesn't come for free, and so we need people building it.
For sure. I mean, one of the things I find is interesting is I mean, a lot. Yeah, wow. It's interesting. It'll be very interesting to how to see the IOTA community is really engaged. And they like really want to do a lot for the thing and support the foundation. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, we are all very excited, and
I mean, I
yeah.
think a lot of stuff is riding for, especially the foundation people. Like, it's a do or die for you guys.
Oh no, I mean we're not. It's not do or die. Yeah, it's like I have us there. Shimmer will launch. Shimmer will work. The one or the other way. So of course, the more users and the more applications we have, the earlier we can deliver core decide and stuff like this on mainnet, because we basically need a lot of people using stuff to see if there are some issues in our codes and things. Yeah, so the more and the better Shimmer runs, the faster we get to applications launching on mainnet and all the tech ported over to the IOTA Tangle. But it will work this way or the other way, and I think we can all be quite looking forward to have an amazing Shimmer launch pretty soon somewhere. Yeah, so if there is nobody else have any questions, I say we see you again on Thursday. And Thursday, the meeting is going to be at 5 p.m. Berlin time, as always on Thursdays. Until then, I'm happy to receive your comments in the docs or in the channel. And well, see you on Thursday.
All right, thanks, Paolo.
Okay, bye everybody.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.